What up, guys? The Bench Buddies are back with my NFL Week 13 Power Rankings. As always, subscribe to the channel to be entered into our giveaway at 500 subscribers. At 32, I have the Panthers, another tough luck loss. They got rid of Frank Wright along with Josh McCown, the QB coach, and their offensive coordinator to Staley. So this year, heading into the offseason, looking to possibly go out, make a big splash, get a good head coach to improve Bryce Young. But don't be surprised this week if the Panthers play different because we've seen the Raiders, Steelers, and Bills all come out firing after some firings this year. 31 are the Patriots, and Belichick might be on the hot seat because they're on a 4-game losing streak. They're 2-9. Mac Jones got benched for Bailey Zappi, who didn't do much better. And I honestly think we might see Malik Cunningham at some point this season. 30 are the Cardinals, and they fall a lot as well because they just couldn't compete with the Rams. I thought this team maybe was going to get better when Kyler Murray came back, but it's kind of the same old, same old. They are producing for fantasy standpoint for the receivers because they're going to have to throw the ball a lot, but it looks like it's going to be a long year. 29 are the Commanders. They fall big to Dallas in the D on Thanksgiving. Ron Rivera, who knows his future after this year? They've lost 3 straight. They fired the defensive coordinator, Jack Del Rio, and they've lost 5 of their last 6. So it's kind of due. I thought this team possibly could hang around 500, but if you look at that schedule, Miami, Rams, Jets, Niners, and Dallas, if they get 10 or less wins, I would call that a success for this year. The Giants move up to 28, and yes, they are 2 games back from a playoff spot in the NFC. That's how bad the NFC is right now. And they're on a roll, 2 straight heading into the bye. DeVito looks like he can build off of, 2 good performances. It wasn't a pretty performance here, but he was efficient, didn't make a mistake. And, maybe, who knows, maybe this Giants team is going to turn it up a little bit. I mean, you can see my ranking by week in the top left there. Preseason, I had them middle of the pack, and then they just kind of hit a wall in week 5 and have really stood right there, but they're trending in the right direction. The Bears, same thing, 2 games back in the NFC after forcing 4 Joshua Dobbs interceptions, kick the game-winning field goal with 10 seconds left. And it's a big, 5 games here for Fields. If Fields can play well, they might stick with him. If not, they might deal him in the offseason, depending on if they have the first pick. It's going to be something to watch for these last few weeks. The Chargers stay at 26, and this was more about the defense limiting that tough Baltimore offense. And then the offense didn't show up with 4 total turnovers. The next 3 games, New England, Denver, and Raiders. If they can win all 3 of those, get back to 7-7, this team still has a shot. 25 are the Jets, and I'm starting to think that even Rodgers' return is going to be too late to save this season. Have to win this week to get to 5-7, and it's going to look a little better. But Houston, Miami, those 2 games, you got to win one of the 2. And if you're there 6-8, then you have Washington, Cleveland, New England, and the best case scenario for this team is they finish 9-8 and somehow, some way squeak into a playoff. But I don't think that's going to happen with this team in the quarterback situation right now without Rodgers. It's not looking too good. 24 are the Titans. They win against the Panthers, ending their 3-game losing streak behind a big first half from Derrick Henry. You can see his stats there, 18 attempts, 76 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Will Levis didn't turn the ball over. And if they can somehow beat the Colts in the AFC South in a big divisional game, then the Titans, are going to be right in the thick of things too, possibly, still having their playoff hopes alive. The Raiders fall to 23 after their tough loss to the Chiefs. Had a good first half, second half just disappeared. And out of the bye week, they get the Vikings, 2 teams that really need a win to stay in the playoff hunt. And the Raiders, I like their chances here. The Vikings are falling a little bit, but the Raiders are still playing hard-nosed football. And Josh Jacobs can have a good day against that Vikings front, then don't be surprised if the Raiders pull off an upset. 22 are the Bucks, and this team is getting worse fast. Baker, okay performance, nothing crazy. Rachaad White, same, but Mike Evans had a day. And it just seems like this defense isn't the same. They can't hold teams to what we're used to seeing and stay in games. But they get the Panthers this week. Should be a win, but I don't know. Who knows with this Bucks team, what team's going to show up. But they're still only a game back in the NFC South. The Saints lost to the Falcons, and that's why they're here at 21. They settled for 5 field goals, 0-5 in the red zone, meaning they didn't score a touchdown in the red zone. And it was the difference. That's why they lost this game. Derek Carr, the pick 6, Jesse Bates, pick 6, pretty much put this game in the bag for the Falcons. Olave played well before he left with a concussion, and hopefully they can get him back here in a big matchup against the Lions. 20 are the Falcons, and they overcame the 2 early interceptions from Ritter, and they finally are back on top here in the NFC South at 5-6. So one of these teams has to win it out. And they played New Orleans last week of the season, which more than likely could be the battle for the last playoff spot. Bijan, probably best game he's played all year. Drake London did well. And if Ritter can limit those mistakes, maybe get that down to 1 a game, I like the Falcons' chances here to possibly win the division. 19 are the Bengals. They're falling here after an ugly performance. And I think we're going to kind of see the same here. Browning's going to struggle with those defenses that you can see there: Jacksonville, Pittsburgh, Kansas City, Cleveland. It's going to be a tough one for them. And if the Bengals can float around 8 or 500, finish 8-9, I think that's a successful year for them, possibly sneaking in the playoff if they can pull off a few upsets. 18 are the Rams. Take care of business against the Cardinals on the road. 2 straight wins out of the bye. They're only a game back out of the playoffs. And now here comes their tough 2, Cleveland and Baltimore. Cleveland has a good defense. Baltimore, good all around. One of the best teams in football. And then you get 3 easier games, which you should win. So I think it's all going to come down to the last week of the season against the Niners when it's all said and done here for these Rams. 17 are my Packers, and they're in the same boat as the Rams. 1 game back out of the playoffs after upsetting the Lions on Thanksgiving. And it was a good win for them. Jordan Love looked great. Christian Watson finally involved. Didn't have Aaron Jones, so A.J. Dillon took load here and totaled 81 total yards. They get the Chiefs Sunday Night Football. If they can get the Chiefs and beat them, the Packers, might be turning some heads here and possibly be jumping into a playoff spot at this time next week. But after KC, they get the Giants, Bucks, Panthers, Vikings were kind of fading, and the Bears. Who knows what's going to happen there? So the Packers have it all in front of them here. It's just a matter of if they can get it done. 16 are those Vikings. Ugly loss as they lose 10-12 to the Bears. Didn't even score a touchdown. And that's how you lose. Didn't look good. This Vikings team, it's going to come down to the end of the season. 2 games against Detroit. And then in the middle, you get the Packers. And I think that's going to decide this team's fate of making the playoffs. Has a turnover or less a game. This Vikings team is good, but we saw last night, those 4 turnovers, costly. 15, the Seahawks, they fall a little bit here after not really a good performance here against the Niners at home. 1-3 in their last 4 games. And starting this week, they get they get Dallas, San Francisco, and Philly. So if they go 1-2, 2-1, I think is at best. I don't think they beat all 3. If they can go 2-1 here, go to 8-6, then I think the Seahawks might be squeaking into the playoffs. 14 are the Colts, and breaking news as of when I'm making this video, Jonathan Taylor is expected out 2 to 3 weeks after undergoing thumb surgery, and it's going to be a tough one. Zach Moss obviously has been great this year when Taylor has been out, and they get the Titans, and I think that's a game where they don't really need Jonathan Taylor to be that workhorse back like he was in this game. And you can see that schedule: Tennessee, Cincinnati, Pittsburgh, Atlanta, Vegas, and Houston. I think the only 2 games that they might lose are Pittsburgh and Houston, and all the other 4 I think are favored for them. And if the Colts can get into the playoffs here, I think it's a good story after losing Richardson so early. The Browns fall out of the top 10 with an ugly loss in Denver. DTR left the game with concussion. He struggled in this one. PJ Walker the same. Amari Cooper left with a rib injury, and he might be out for a little bit. So this team is not looking good. And they go to the Rams, who are on fire here, and winning 2 straight and looking like a whole brand new football team. It's going to be a tough game for these Browns. 12 are the Bills. They're falling 1 spot after a heartbreaking overtime loss to the Eagles. And the biggest question for me, Josh Allen, they made the rule for him in the playoffs, but they didn't even take advantage of it here in the regular season. 20 seconds left, decided to take a knee. I get they had to go at least 35 yards to possibly attempt a game-winning field goal, but with 1 timeout left, why not try it? The Bills have struggled in overtime in Josh Allen's career. He's 0-6. And like I said at the beginning of the year, 8-9, 9-8 team. They get Kansas City and Dallas out of their bye week, and they got to win at least one of those games to stay in the race. 11 are the Steelers, and this team is starting to figure it out after Matt Canada gets fired. Of course, the team goes off for 421 yards. Pickett looked good. Pat Freiermuth had his best game of his career. TJ Watt, of course, 2 sacks and a forced fumble. This team is clicking on all cylinders, and it's going to be a tough matchup for those Cardinals. Starting the top 10, I'm keeping the Texans here. Tough way to lose a game off of the front crossbar. And I like this Texans team to make the playoffs. They get Denver, Jets, Titans twice, Cleveland, and Indy. And I think they're going to be right around that 9-8, 10-7 mark. Just depends on if this defense can hold up against those better teams. And Stroud looked good yet again in this one. Like I said, the defense, that's what it's gonna come down to if they can limit those high scoring teams. 9 are the Broncos, and they get those Texans actually this week. They're jumping into the top 10 for the first time this year. Defense looked great in this one. The 5-game winning streak has continued into this week. They've beat every single one of those teams right now is in the playoffs, except the Packers, who are only 1 game back. To end the season, they get the Chargers, Lions, Patriots, Chargers, and Raiders. I think this team is going to win at least 10 games this year. And if they can keep playing like this, at least half it like this, they're going to win at least 2 of those games against the Patriots and Raiders, it feels like. So the Broncos are a team to watch out for that could make some noise in the playoffs. The Lions fall all the way back to 8 here, and it was a pretty bad performance here from the secondary. Got gashed after the first play of the game and so on. Just seemed like Packers had their way. Goff had 3 fumbles and didn't really look like himself until the fourth quarter. Montgomery, another solid game for him. Same with Gibbs. But the Lions team has to get a win this week to really rebound, and they need it for sure. 7 are the Jaguars, 1 on that missed field goal off the front of the crossbar. Trevor Lawrence played well in this one, and Travis Etienne as well. Calvin Ridley emerging finally, what feels like in forever. With that win, that gives them the AFC South lead by 2 games over Houston and Indy. They get Cincy this week, should win that one. It seems like the AFC South is theirs to lose at this point. The Dolphins blow out the Jets on Black Friday. The only concern here, Dolphins are still 0-3 against teams above 500. And, no matter how good Tua, Mostert, Achane when he's back this week, Waddle, Hill, they all play. They just somehow can't beat the teams that are good when it matters, and should take care of business against Commanders this week and have an easy game. These Dolphins, I feel like when it comes to the good teams, that's when they need to play their best. The Ravens go up to 5 here after beating the Chargers on Sunday Night Football. Zay Flowers carried in this one, 62 total yards and 2 touchdowns, both of the touchdowns for him. But the defense was the big story here, forcing 4 turnovers. And the Chargers couldn't really do anything to get going here as the Ravens go into their bye. The Chiefs move up 1-4. They rallied from 14 down early to get the road win, to win by 14. Mahomes, great game. Pacheco, a great game. Rashee Rice, one of his better games of the year. And Kelsey, just another good performance. So they're kind of in the same boat here with the AFC West, like the Jaguars. They're up 2 games on the Broncos. I feel like it's their division to lose here at this point. And they go to Lambeau, and Mahomes' first time heading to Lambeau, and it's going to be interesting to see how he can play there. Obviously, it's a big game for my Packers and the Chiefs too, as the Chiefs need to get a big win there to stay atop the AFC to possibly get that 1 seed. Talk about total domination. That's what the Dallas Cowboys did in this one. Dominated the Commanders. DaRon Bland gets the pick 6 to give him the career record for 1 season. 13th straight home run. Dak is playing like an MVP, but they haven't beat a team over 500 this year. That's when the Seahawks come into play. I think they're going to take care of business there. A little preview for my pick this week. I think Dallas is going to win that game. But that game against Philly next week is going to decide the NFC East and if Dallas is the 1 seed or the 5 seed. 2 are the Niners, and they beat actually those Seahawks pretty easily. CMC had a big first half, as you can see his total stats there. Debo played well. Purdy, just another easy game for him. They've won 3 straight out of the bye week and after acquiring Chase Young, and they get Philly this week in a very big game, and it's going to be one I'm sure everybody's going to be tuned in. And Philly is at 1 yet again, and you can see there in the top left, they've been number 1 since week 9. So that shows you how dominant this team has been. Obviously only have 1 loss, and that win against the Bills, it seems like they don't even play their best game. They're at about 80% every game, and they still find ways to win games. And of course, their 1 loss would be to the Jets right now. But the NFC, I think it's theirs. They are going to show us these next 2 weeks against the top 2 teams in the NFC, the Niners and Cowboys. If they beat both those teams, then I think NFC is running through Philly, and they might be heading back to their 2nd straight Super Bowl. But that's going to be it for this week's Power Rankings video. Next week to see where your favorite team ranks. But until the next time, the Bench Buddies are out.